Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where we are continuing to do book reviews that I read during my kind of week between Christmas and New Year's. I didn't record any that particular time. Today is actually New Year's Eve, so I guess I'm doing all my recording today on New Year's Eve. No, I have not put on any clothes to go hang out with my friends yet. Just my sweatshirt, jeans, ripped up jeans, and I did give myself a haircut. So hopefully you like my hair. I put a little bit of a shine gloss on it and I cut my own hair. So there we go. I took my own scissors to it. So hopefully we think we did okay. If not, don't hurt my feelings, please and thank you. I actually feel pretty good about the way it turned out. I was trying to do my very best and take my time and not just hack at it. I was, using a comb and cutting it wet and cutting it damp and trying to do all the things that Brad Mondo tells us we should do when we cut our own hair or color our own hair at home. Now, I have been coloring and bleaching my hair by myself for, years. So if I mess up my bleach, that's on me. But cutting my hair is not something I always do because I don't always trust myself. And sometimes the angles were wrong. But we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking about books. Y'all are here for books. And I have a book that was silly and funny and kind of crazy. And it's called The Flying Sorcerers by David Gerrold and Larry Niven. Niven. Now, this book, in my personal opinion, was silly and funny and definitely sci-fi fantasy and all these sorts of things. Now, first things first, this is not going to be a big, great, probably super big hit on any particular body's list of great books of the year. Certainly not. But was it funny? Yes. Was it silly and kind of satirical? Yes. All of those things, absolutely. It's meant to be humorous. It is probably B-grade humor at best. But sometimes I like B-grade humor. I don't like to think too hard. I like when they put me in the mindset of people who are not people. And so the particular, the perspective or the population, the brain that we're kind of in and kind of following along is not human. And all of this perspective is kind of from theirs. So I kind of want to put that out there because I think that's where some of the humor comes from, is actually the fact that they don't understand a lot of human interactions. So let's dive into this summary real quick. I don't understand, though, why one of the genres that somebody put was the United States of America. That part is funny. That makes no sense at all. But this funny and insightful science fiction classic, I don't think it's going to be a classic, but okay, introduces Sugar, the greatest wizard ever known in his village. His spells can strike terror in the hearts of even his most powerful enemies. But the enemy he now faces is like none he's ever seen before. The stranger has come from nowhere and is ignorant of even the most basic principles of magic. But the stranger has incredibly powerful magic of his own. There is no room in Sugar's world for an intruder whose powers match his own, let alone one whose powers might exceed his. So, before the blue sun can cross the face of the red sun once more, Sugar will show the stranger just who's boss. Well, I will tell you one thing for sure. This summary does not tell you anything about the book at all whatsoever. This summary tells you the first 10 pages ish. And so let's dive into the fact that this is not a population of humans that we are interacting with. And I think we actually realize that pretty quickly with their descriptions of themselves and the fact that they kind of have these nests that they live in. They seem to be almost furry in a way. They seem to have a lot more hair on their body. So when this particular stranger shows up, and they call him Purple, But we'll dive into that maybe just a little bit. I don't want to give too much away, but I just, as I was finishing the book up, gosh, maybe an hour before recording this, some things just clicked into place that were kind of fun. But that's the fun of science fiction, right? Is that you can take things that are familiar and turn them on their heads in such a way that does make them feel foreign. So they're the main characters of this book, Shugar and Lant, and I think it's Lant, Lant, Lant. Well, he seems to. Lant is more like this bone monger. He is a person who goes around and collects bones and carves them into things for people. And that's his particular function. But he's also Shugar, the sorcerer's kind of like, not his apprentice, but kind of like a little bit of an assistant. It's kind of his job to make sure Shugar has what he needs to be able to do his spells and things like that. And they seem to have a lot of different gods, so they have to appease different gods. And this particular other sorcerer, the stranger, comes out of the sky with this kind of this flying nest. Crazy, I know. And even though he doesn't use the same type of magic that Shugar uses, calling on the gods and casting these particular spells, that's the only way they can equate to the fact that he seems to have certain abilities of like calling down lightning or various things like that, or using something that has a battery. There's just a lot of different little quirky things about it. So, we soon kind of figure out just through the extrapolation of data that this is probably a human spaceman. And they do call him Purple because his translating device calls him like a certain shade of purple or something like that. And like that's what the translator device kind of translates his name into. And so as he's trying to share who he is, they interpret it as him being this purplish shade, grayish purple shade, and they're like, okay, so we're going to call you Purple. Well, again, it's not until about 75% of the way through the book that we actually kind of learn his real name. And so I'm not going to spoil that for you if you guys are interested in it. But let's just say it was kind of a funny revelation. But it's goofy. It's a goofy, silly book. It is funny in all of the silly sort of ways. And I'm just looking at this. It says The Flying Sorcerers is a 1971 novel published by David Gerrold, and Larry Niven, who had just published Ringworld, his magnum opus, 1 year earlier. So this is apparently not... This is not a new book, but it is looking like, according to Goodreads, I just got the audiobook for it, and this book was first published June 1st of 1970, according to Goodreads. 320 pages in paperback. So maybe it is a classic. Maybe that's the part I'm missing, is I didn't actually realize until right now, as I'm looking at this, that this book was published before I was born. It is silly. It is funny. I mean, it is substantially older than I am. So that's kind of feels nice, right? Like, to realize but I also now get the fact of why it's so campy in a lot of different ways. And if they made this into a movie, the best sort of graphics could be hilarious, because you could do like Evil Dead sort of vibes, but not horror, but more like sci-fi, and you could make it really campy, and it would probably be hilarious. It would probably be like a B-rated movie, because it would definitely not be an A-listing movie, but I could see where it could be super funny. Now, why it's called The Flying Sorcerers is because ultimately Shugar and Purple they have to have a sort of truce. And I will say the ceremony to which they kind of go through this truce is very much like a wedding ceremony. It's like do you, Purple, take this person to be in? And so it is kind of funny in the fact that they almost have to do like a wedding to prevent them from trying to destroy each other. Now, I will say Purple is a little less adamant of trying to destroy Sugar. Sugar is very much the one who is adamantly trying to get one up on Purple. So that's a pretty funny angle as well. Let's just scroll back down here to the person who had all the fantastic information about this book, Stephen with a PHAN. Thank you for your review that you did on July 5th of 2020. I did not realize that this book was so much older. And I think that actually makes it even funnier, because I was reading this from the perspective of a girl about to go into 2025. This book is 54 years old. And so I'm reading it from the perspective of someone who has lived in a time which is a little bit more advanced, I guess, per this book. And everything in this book, it's now, I find it to actually be even funnier, because like we have Purple's quest to get back to his mothership. We have Sugar, who is the magician of the village, trying to sneakily take out Purple. And Purple accidentally creates industry in this particular village. This village was a very, they didn't know what trade was. They didn't know what, like, they would barter things. It's like, okay, I'll give you fish if you give me sheep's wool, or what have you, ram's wool. So everything was a little bit more taboo, because you didn't want to anger the gods and all that. But now, and then we don't talk to women. The women, you can't talk to the women, because that's a very taboo thing as well. The women don't have names, and Purple accidentally starts giving them names, and then they get all like opinionated, which is super funny. But it's full of sci-fi jokes, and it is full of puns. And if you want something that falls in line with campy sci-fi humor, this may be a great book for you. I probably was going to give it like 4 to 4.5 stars. And I want to give it like 4.5 stars. I hate rounding down, because I would probably recommend this book to especially some of my guy friends who maybe don't always lean towards, like, I will say that there are some sci-fi books that I read that still have way too much, I guess, romance for what I would think my guy friends would really enjoy. But this one, on the other hand, I feel like I could definitely, like a friend of mine that I read Hyperion with, I would probably recommend this to him, and I think he would enjoy it because it's funny. So just throwing that out there, that this is an older book that is funny, and I still don't think it's like a grade A science fiction book, but the fact that I am now learning that this book is older than I thought it was, and seems to be getting an audiobook version now, good for it. I don't guess it had an audiobook version, but I thought the narration was very well done. And this is one that I think I will recommend to people, especially like my closer friends who maybe don't always pick up the books that I read, or maybe don't even follow my channel, but ones that I would be like, hey, if you want something funny and sci-fi, like this one's super campy, you might enjoy it, because the humor is ridiculously silly. And if you don't want to think too hard, here you go. This is a great one for you. And so with all of that being said, let's just say, I don't even think I told you why they're called the Flying Sorcerers, but when Purple creates industry, he's trying to build almost like a hot air balloon-ish type of airship. And so again, we have some more puns, some more humor that all rotates right around that, but you're going to have to read it to find it, because I'm not telling you all of the puns and silly things that are like in this book. They do learn how to use and make currency, and yeah, They also learn how to, like, kind of unconsecrate houses, and they do a lot of drinking and all that sort of fun stuff in lots of different funny ways. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys there with that. If you're interested, then there you go. Flying Sorcerers by David Gerrold. Anyway, and Niven, Larry Niven. And go out there and find it. If you're interested, it could be funny. It could be silly. It could be the dumbest thing you've ever read, but honestly, sometimes it's just fun to read those books too. But I will see you guys on the next page. I still have a couple more reviews that I have to get all squared away before I can wrap up the evening. So, thank you so much. I hope you'll like and subscribe. I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. And I'll see you on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.